On the 14th of April, 1992, an unknown 18-year-old made his professional boxing debut. Fans took their seats in the small venue, completely unaware that they were about to witness the birth of the most bizarre fighter boxing had ever seen. A fighter so talented he could break every rule and win. A fighter so quick that opponents were already on the canvas before they even realised that they'd been hit. A fighter so powerful that his own bones struggled to withstand the force of his punches. And for many years to come, it worked. But just as quickly as he rose, he fell. This is the story of arguably the most gifted and self-destructive talent boxing has ever produced. This is the story of Prince Naseem Hamed. And to understand this story, we have to go back. In 1981, a local boxing coach looked outside his door. He saw a young Naseem Hamed being beaten up by 3 boys. To Brendan's amazement, the young Nas was moving out of the way of the punches. Not only this, he was striking them back. Soon, all 3 boys lay on the ground in front of him. At the age of just 7, Naseem Hamed would put on boxing gloves for the first time. It would change his life. He would be trained by Brendan Ingle, who soon noticed that Naseem moved differently. He danced, he bounced, he dared opponents to hit him, and somehow he would never get hit. This boy was uncoachable. The reality was, though, he didn't need coaching. From the very beginning, it was clear. This boy hadn't come to learn boxing, he had come to reimagine it. Naseem Hamed wasn't just good, he was unnatural. His reflexes were so sharp, they bordered on reckless. His timing was so precise, it made chaos look calculated. He threw punches from angles that shouldn't exist. Shots landed from his waist, seemingly out of nowhere at all. He broke every rule Brendan Ingle taught him. And Brendan let him, because Naseem didn't rely on speed or power, he relied on instinct. By the time he turned professional, he carried an amateur record of 84 wins and 8 losses, but the numbers never told the story. The story was that nobody could prepare for him. You couldn't spar like him, you couldn't mimic him, and you certainly couldn't predict him. Imagine being a young amateur in the 80s and getting a tape of your opponent, and you just see this. What on earth do you do to prepare for this? Opponents didn't just lose to Naseem Hamed, they were humiliated by him. Early in his career, Naseem did something boxing had never seen. He turned the ring into a stage. Entrances on flying carpets, backflips through the ropes, dancing before the fight, on the way to the fight, and during the fight. He didn't walk to the ring with menace, like other fighters, he walked with joy. The joy of knowing that he had a gift that no other human being possessed. And it drove people mad. British boxing, rooted in stoicism and restraint, didn't know what to do with him. He talked too much, showed too much confidence, and too much arrogance. Not since Ali had a fighter both infuriated and mesmerised opponents. But like Ali, he didn't just talk, he delivered. One by one, respected fighters were knocked out, often brutally, often early, and often while Naseem's hands were down by his waist. To his critics, he was disrespectful. To his fans, he was liberation. He made boxing fun again. What made Prince Naseem truly terrifying was the contradiction. Featherweights aren't supposed to punch like that. If being given supreme reflexes weren't enough, he was gifted ungodly power. The bones in his hands could literally not withstand the power he was able to produce with them. Due to this, he would break his hands on many occasions throughout his career. His speed wasn't just hand speed, it was decision speed. He saw openings before they existed. He struck opponents whilst they were still thinking. It was as if God was just showing off when he created Prince Naseem. A perfect mix of every trait a boxer could hope for. It was absolute chaos, and for years, nobody could solve it. Until someone did. On the 30th of September 1995, Naseem faced Steve Robinson for the WBO featherweight title. Nas was 19-0 and just 21 years old. Many fighters have showboated their way through lesser opponents. Naseem may have been European champion by this time, but surely a man could not break every boxing rule in a world title fight. But he did. Prince Naseem Hamed would arguably produce one of the finest performances boxing had ever seen. He dispatched of Steve Robinson in the 8th round with a pinpoint left hook that took the champion's legs away. As entertaining as the performance was, the referee had grown tired of witnessing such a one-sided assault, and he stopped the contest. From that moment on, British boxing didn't just have a champion, it had a phenomenon. Fights became events, not because of belts, but because people wanted to see what he'd do next. Whilst Naseem was completely unpredictable, what was always predictable was the result. Again and again, he would show that he was just different. Naseem didn't ask fans to admire him, he dared them to doubt him. Prince Naseem would dominate the 90s, making a complete mockery of any fighter unlucky enough to face him. Opponents knew that they would serve as little more than a highlight reel when facing Prince Naseem. On the 8th of June 1996, Daniel Alicia would be the first to show any kind of weakness in Nas. He would be the first fighter to knock the Prince down. Nas would correct this blemish very quickly by ending the fight by a TKO in the 2nd round. He would enter the new millennium with a perfect record of 35-0. Just 2 of 15 opponents would hear the final bell. But brilliance has a price. As victories piled up, discipline began to fade. Training camps shortened and sparring sessions became optional. Why train like everyone else when no one else is like you? Naseem had never needed structure the way other fighters did. His talent up to now had always compensated. Behind the scenes, the relationship with Brendan Ingle began to fracture. The man who had first noticed him was now being ignored. Brendan felt that Naseem had lost his motivation to train and now felt that he worshipped money. The pair parted ways in 1997. Ingle was the anchor, the balance, the man who told Naseem no, and slowly, Naseem stopped listening. The damage was not noticed straight away, as Nas would finish the 90s with his perfect record intact. However, Daniel Alicia may have been the first fighter to knock the Prince down, but he wouldn't be the last. On the 19th of December, 1997, Naseem Hamed faced Kevin Kelly to defend his featherweight title. The fight took place at Madison Square Garden and would announce the Prince to the United States of America. The fight is often described as the Hagler vs. Hearns of the featherweight division. The fight would become a slugfest, as each fighter would score 3 knockdowns over one another. The Prince may have had the final and decisive knockdown over Kelly in the 4th round, but something had changed. Naseem finished the 90s with a perfect record, but he didn't finish it untouched. The illusion was broken. The Prince could be touched, and he could be hurt. On the 7th of April, 2001, Prince Naseem Hamed stepped into the ring against Marco Barrera. This was different. Barrera wasn't intimidated, he wasn't confused, and he wasn't reckless. With a record of 53-3, he was disciplined, patient, and relentless. For the first time in his career, Naseem was forced to fight a thinking man. And the magic just didn't appear. Barrera stayed composed, he cut off the ring, he took away the impossible angles, and he punished mistakes. Naseem tried to rely on instinct, but instinct needs preparation, and his lax attitude towards training was on full display. Over 12 rounds, the illusion was dismantled. The dancing stopped, the taunting vanished, and the crowd fell silent. Prince Naseem lost decisively, and something else was lost that night too: belief. Naseem would fight just once more after Barrera. A comparatively hollow victory, a shadow performance. And then, he was gone. No farewell tour, no redemption arc, and no gradual decline. At just 28 years old, Prince Naseem Hamed walked away from boxing. Still young, still rich, and still famous. Hand injuries may have played a part, but most fans don't believe that this is the entire story. Naseem didn't just lose a fight, he lost the thing that made him, him. Boxing was never just a job, it was expression, identity, and purpose. And when the crowds disappeared, so did the spotlight that had defined him since childhood. Prince Naseem Hamed will never be remembered as boxing's greatest champion, but he will always be remembered as one of its greatest talents. He bent the sport to his will until the sport demanded structure in return. Though the star may have burned quickly, its impact is undeniable. Naseem Hamed proved that joy could still exist inside violence, and though his reign was brief, it was unforgettable. Prince Naseem Hamed didn't just fight opponents, he fought convention, and for a while, he won.